In this video, we examine 3 real criminal cases involving women connected to violent MS-13 murders in the United States. This documentary is based on court records, federal statements, and verified reporting. Viewer discretion is advised. For years, MS-13 built a reputation around fear. Brutal attacks. Machetes. Executions carried out in wooded parks, abandoned streets, and quiet neighborhoods. But some of the most disturbing cases didn't begin with gang members chasing victims down. They began with trust. A text message. A friendly invitation. A familiar face saying, "Come hang out." Tonight, we look at 3 women accused of helping lure victims directly into deadly ambushes tied to MS-13. And in each case, investigators said the victims never saw it coming. Case 1, Leniz Escobar, LA Diablita, Long Island, New York. April 11, 2017. It was supposed to be a late-night meetup between teenagers. Instead, prosecutors would later describe it as one of the most horrifying gang murders in Long Island history. The victims were 4 young men. Justin Lavicura, Michael Lopez, Jorge Tigre, Jefferson Villalobos. A 5th teenager survived by escaping over a fence in the darkness. According to federal prosecutors, the group had been invited to a park in central Islip by a 17-year-old girl named Leniz Escobar, also known as Diablita, Spanish for Little Devil. Authorities said the victims believed they were simply going to smoke marijuana and hang out. But hidden in the wooded area were nearly a dozen MS-13 gang members allegedly waiting with machetes, knives, wooden clubs, and even an axe. Investigators later claimed the murders were connected to social media posts where some of the teenagers pretended to be associated with MS-13. According to testimony and court records, gang members viewed that as disrespect. And in MS-13 culture, disrespect can become a death sentence. When the victims arrived at the park, the attack began almost immediately. Federal prosecutors said the victims were hacked, stabbed, and beaten to death in the darkness while one teenager managed to run for his life. The murders shocked Long Island. Residents struggled to understand how such extreme violence could happen in suburban neighborhoods better known for schools and quiet streets. But the investigation quickly focused on Leniz Escobar. Prosecutors argued she deliberately lured the victims into the park while knowing gang members were waiting nearby. During trial testimony, authorities said Escobar also destroyed evidence after the killings. Her defense team argued she did not know the victims would be murdered. But prosecutors painted a different picture. They described her as someone seeking approval from gang members and willingly helping set up the attack. After a 4-week federal trial, Escobar was convicted on racketeering and murder-related charges in 2022. Then came sentencing. In 2024, a federal judge sentenced her to 50 years in prison. Prosecutors stated she had lured 5 young men into the park, where 4 were killed. What makes this case especially disturbing is how ordinary it began. No kidnapping, no forced abduction. Just teenagers following someone they trusted into the woods. And for 4 of them, it became a death trap. MS-13 has long relied on fear and loyalty to maintain power. Federal investigators say the gang often punishes perceived disrespect with extreme violence. But sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the machete. It's trust. Because in the next case, the victim walked directly into an ambush set up by someone he once considered a friend. Case 2, Carla Jacqueline Morales, Houston, Texas, 2018. A 24-year-old man named Jose Alonso Villanueva believed he was meeting someone he knew. Instead, prosecutors say he was walking into a carefully coordinated murder. According to investigators, Carla Jacqueline Morales invited Villanueva to meet at a remote location connected to MS-13 members. Authorities later alleged that gang members ambushed him there in a violent attack involving machetes and gunfire. Federal investigators claimed Morales helped organize the setup by communicating with gang members before the killing and placing the victim exactly where attackers wanted him. Unlike random violence, prosecutors argued this was planned betrayal. The victim trusted her enough to show up willingly. After the murder, Morales disappeared. For more than a year, she remained a fugitive while authorities searched for her. The FBI later arrested her in 2019. During court proceedings, prosecutors described Morales as a critical participant in the ambush, not necessarily the person carrying out the fatal attack, but someone who helped make it possible. Eventually, Morales was sentenced to 30 years in prison for her role in the crime. Cases like this reveal something investigators repeatedly encounter in gang-related murders. Victims are often lured into isolated locations by people they know personally. It lowers suspicion. It avoids struggle. One of the most feared consequences inside violent gangs is trying to leave. Federal investigators say MS-13 has repeatedly targeted suspected informants, rivals, and even members accused of disloyalty. In the next case, prosecutors said a teenage boy wanted out. And according to authorities, that decision sealed his fate. Case 3, Lidia del Carmen Rodriguez. Central Islip, New York. A 15-year-old boy named Jason Medrano Molina was trying to escape gang life. According to federal prosecutors, MS-13 members viewed him as a target. Authorities said Lidia del Carmen Rodriguez, who was also a teenager at the time, helped lure him into a secluded wooded area under false pretenses. Prosecutors alleged Rodriguez arranged the meeting while other gang members waited nearby with weapons, including a handgun and a baseball bat. When the victim arrived, investigators said the ambush began. The murder became yet another shocking example of how young both the victims and suspects were in many MS-13 cases on Long Island. According to the Associated Press, Rodriguez pleaded guilty in federal court in 2022 to aiding and abetting the murder. She had originally been charged as a juvenile because she was only 16 years old when the killing happened. Federal prosecutors argued she knowingly participated in setting up the attack. And once again, trust became the weapon. The victim reportedly believed he was meeting someone familiar. Instead, investigators said he was being delivered directly into danger. Cases like this left entire communities shaken. Parents worried about gang recruitment in schools. Students feared retaliation. And neighborhoods across Long Island saw increased federal investigations targeting MS-13 activity. Since the early 2000s, hundreds of MS-13 members and associates have been prosecuted in the Eastern District of New York alone, many connected to murders, attempted murders, and racketeering crimes. Federal authorities describe MS-13 as a transnational criminal organization with roots in Los Angeles and leadership ties extending into El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, and Mexico. Closing. These cases are difficult to understand because the people involved were so young. Teenagers. Young adults. People barely old enough to begin life. Yet investigators described acts involving calculated setups, brutal violence, and deliberate betrayal. And in every case, prosecutors said the victims were not hunted down randomly. They were lured. That's what makes these stories especially chilling. Not just the violence itself, but the manipulation before it. A trusted face. A simple invitation. A walk into the dark. And then, according to prosecutors, it was already too late. If you want more real criminal case breakdowns based on verified reports and court records, subscribe to Undefined Crime. Because sometimes the most dangerous part of organized crime isn't the people holding the weapons. It's the person convincing the victim to come along willingly. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.